Good afternoon, ladies. How are you?
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Great.
Welcome to the 2020 pandemic stress relief for parents and educators. We are here today to discuss some of the stressors that we've all been experiencing since the beginning of this pandemic. Right now, most of us are about a month or maybe a little bit over a month smack dab in the middle of this pandemic crisis. And we know that our children are really having some difficulty, as well as the parents and educators. So our purpose here today is to kind of talk about what those stressors are and to see if we can add value to you so that you'll know what it is that you can do within your own household while you are quarantined in your home with the stay-at-home order, what you can do to minimize the stress, not only for yourself, but for your kids and the rest of your family, okay?
All
Okay.
right.
So why don't we go ahead and get started with introduction. So my name is Dr. Princess Briggs, and I am an education success strategist with Briggs Education Consulting and Support. And Dr. Brinson, if you can
Hi.
introduce yourself.
Hi, great. I am Dr. Angela Brinson. I am a licensed school psychologist, and I'm the CEO of PsychEd Solutions Community Mental Health Center.
And we will be co-hosting our talk this afternoon. And we're going to go ahead and introduce you to some of our panelists, which are both parents and teachers. So I'll start with you, EJ, if you can tell us what role you serve and what are the ages of your children.
As you mentioned, I'm both an educator and a parent. I've been in education for the past 13 years, and I have a 3 and an 11-year-old.
Awesome. Thank you. Miss Classy?
I am Miss Classy. I have two children in the educational system. One is in the 10th grade and one is in the 8th grade, and I am working remotely.
You're working remotely for your own job.
Yes, I'm a paralegal.
Okay, thank you. Ty?
Hi, I'm an educator. I've been an educator in South Florida for 20 years. And I also have two students in the educational system, one in the 4th grade and one in the 12th grade.
Thank you. Mimi?
Yes, I'm Mimi, and I'm an educator in the Metro Atlanta area, and I have a high school freshman.
Thank you. And Melody?
Hi, my name is Melody. I'm a related service provider in Alabama, and I provide services to help students get the most out of their IEPs.
Thank you. Thank you all so much, ladies. So I'm just going to open up the floor. And the first thing I want to talk about is what are some of the stressors that you personally have been experiencing? And then what are some of your coworkers or either your family members sharing with you as far as what their stressors are? So EJ, if I can start with you, what are some of the stressors that you've been experiencing at home as a parent, as well as an educator? And what are some of the things your fellow educators are expressing to you?
Well, one of the major stresses is the school that I'm at is a EBD school, emotionally behavioral, as well as ESC. And so a lot of my coworkers and I are struggling with, well, how do we get our kids to do their work when our kids are coming from homes where the parental support is not there? Some of them live in group homes. Some of them are coming from very just impoverished backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I know that we were talking about this week and meeting with is creating very simple agendas. If they can just log in and we just create a simple prompt. It doesn't have to be something technical, something very simple. And then we're also very sensitive to the time. Let's not give them a week to do it. Let's give them 2 weeks to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand that we're working in a different environment. And our kids, you know, we take it for granted because my daughter can go log on her computer or go get on my laptop if something is not working. Mm-hmm. They're not coming from those backgrounds. They're literally coming from, some of them really just come to school for the AC and the food. And that's just because they don't have those type of comforts at home that we take for granted. So definitely one of those things we were discussing this week was definitely allowing for extensions, communicating through Google Voice, and, you know, trying to just be very sensitive to this is new. Nobody, or I've never ever lived through a pandemic before. No one else in my school that I know of has. So let's try to be sensitive and very, you know, just try to work through their needs first, because some of my kids, because they are EBD, some of them with the work they will sometimes get into an anxious, very, sometimes the parents have had to Baker act them because they get so anxious about doing work. We've had those issues on campus before. Even speaking with the therapists that work at my school as well, because, you know, just trying to deal with their nerves in this situation, because some of their home situations are just so dire. So, you know, a lot of it's just packing patience and understanding that maybe the gen ed student may take a week to do, it's going to take our students 2 weeks to do. And we just have to be sensitive to it and just be flexible.
And how is that impacting you? What stress is that causing you as a teacher, knowing that some of your students may not be equipped as well as not have the support at home? Is that causing you any stress as a teacher?
There is. I actually had a student, one of the therapists reached out to me and let me know that this one student, he has really bad anxiety in the classroom because his mom often has seizures. And so she's telling me that he's really struggling. He's having, you know, really just not doing well with trying to figure out how to do the work. And so I informed her, you know, I'm going to reach out to mom again as best as I can and just let her know, listen, I'd rather you be healthy and you be home, and I can talk to him sometime at the end of next week. Whenever we get to it, I just want him to be able to, at some point, sit down, and even if it's a simple sentence, you could draw me a picture at this point. I just want to make sure that you're in a healthy state mentally, because this emergency, you know, pandemic that we're in has really thrown a lot of people for a loop. And a child, especially one that was already emotionally disturbed, this is really not helping. So I'm for right now at this point more content with them being healthy versus them getting through the work right now. I'm like, we'll get to the work. I just want to make sure you're okay.
Definitely. Definitely. And I'm going to just jump in here, EJ, and say that it is a big deal, right? In terms of you're seeing changes in behavior. Even the average kid is having difficulty adjusting right now. So parents need to be sensitive to that. If we don't know what to do as adults, imagine what they're going through, right?
Right.
So you have kids that are used to being with their friends every day, and now they're looking at their friends through a computer screen. So it's very difficult for them. One thing I will recommend to parents, if you have children that are taking medication, be sure to keep them on that same medication regimen, okay? Because as we know, stress is one of the main reasons we begin to see behavior problems in kids, okay? And you need to be aware of the signs, whether it's anxiety or depression, social isolation. All of those things are important. We have to talk to kids and ask them how they're feeling about being the social learning part of this, because they're missing out on their normal routine, you know? And so now we're asking kids that use home as an outlet to now take that structure they had in school and be structured at home. And that's huge for a lot of kids. A lot of kids can't just adjust as easily as we would expect them to.
Very true.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And Ty, I know that you're also a teacher as well as a mom. What kind of stressors have you been experiencing, or have your fellow teachers been expressing to you?
First, I don't call it stressors. I believe that the words that we use affect our mindset. So I wouldn't say I've had any stressors, so to speak, but I've had some challenges. One with my children, my daughter, she's a senior. And of course, like, this has affected her senior year tremendously. Financially, I mean, I know for the most part, some of the things, at least for a parent, will be refunded for a lot of the things that we've paid for that we will not be able to, our children will not be able to participate in, but it's a financial issue for us. Graduation, that's the biggest concern for me and my daughter, because I understand you could have it virtually, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
not
not
the same.
And we haven't been having any educational challenges because my children are independent. So they can do their work without any problems, but it's just for my daughter, her biggest concern is her graduation. She feels that she's worked so hard. She doesn't really care about prom or, you know, grad bash. She's over that, but her biggest issue is not being able to actually participate in a traditional graduation. And she's supposed to have 2 graduations because she's also doing dual enrollment. So she'll receive her AA as well. So we heard from the college already. They didn't say it was canceled. They said it was postponed. So she still has her fingers crossed, but that is her biggest concern, her not being able to actually have a traditional graduation. So we were discussing some things. I'm not sure what the school board has in place or what they have in mind, but we was like, even if it can be postponed, because if this is going to continue, I know a lot of students are going to college, but if this is going to continue, the colleges are not going to start. So it's not like we have to worry about the students being away and postponing the graduation to maybe August, July. If we're still dealing with the situation, they're not going to start school then either. Right. So those are some of the things me and my daughter has been talking about as far as this pandemic, how it's been affecting her.
Thank you. And I know, Ms. Classy, you have school-age children as well. What have your children been saying to you as far as what their concerns are?
As far as my son, I have a son that's in the ESC program, and our concern really is they're supposed to reach out, his ESC specialist, and talk to us about what strategies they're going to come up with as far as giving him services, even virtually. But I have not heard from the school. And then I called the school. It's like everybody's adjusting at this point. I understand that totally. And I'm just waiting right now to see how they're going to handle this, because this is almost going on 2 weeks or so, and we still haven't heard from anybody. So that's a concern. He's not getting the services that he needs. And also with the work, he's getting work. Is the challenges that I'm having as a parent is I'm working remotely from home as well.
Right.
So monitoring him is a problem, because if I'm not there right there, guiding him or redirecting him, he's not going to just sit there and do the work. He'll be playing around and whatever. So I have to keep, coming in here where he is and like getting him back on task. And that's taken away from my job. And also financially is a challenge as well, because they, put us to part-time. So that means I'm getting half of my pay. So doing all this because my employer is worrying about business as well. So everybody's been affected by this. What is really keeping me is prayer and my faith in God, and, believing that he's going to work it out as he has before, and he will continue to bring us through this pandemic. So with my daughter, she's independent. So she's doing her work, and she has a lot of work, and she told me, but she always has a lot of work because she's in a pre-IB program. So her work is consistent. She's very good. She's diligent. It's just my son, he has to take breaks constantly. He doesn't want to sit there in front of the computer for a number of hours, and that's a challenge. So because he still has to get work done. So what I'm finding that I have to give him breaks, make him read on the computer for 30 minutes, go get something to eat, snack, or go outside, jump around, jump on the trampoline or something to keep him active, and then to just monitor. So monitoring that and keeping that schedule has been very challenging.
So I have a suggestion for you. When it comes to keeping him on track with his schedule. So and we can work more independently when we come off of the recording, but I would like to say to you that he needs a visual schedule of what his requirements are throughout the day. So for example, let's say he has 5 things that he has to do throughout the day. A reading assignment, a math assignment, a writing assignment, and maybe, I don't know, something else that he needs to do. But let's just say there are 5 things that he needs to do. You can write those things down, and you can prioritize them. I don't know if he does better in the morning or if he does better in the afternoon, but during those times that he tends to be more focused, you want to go ahead and put those things that he really needs to focus on during that time. So for example, if he's more focused in the morning time, and let's say math tends to be more challenging for him, you can go ahead and put the math in the morning time because he's more focused and he can pay more attention. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you give him that assignment but immediately following that assignment, you want to embed. So it's going to be like you're braiding in something fun or something something that he wants to do, a preferred activity. So it will look like a sandwich, it will look like a double-decker sandwich, if you will. So you will have math and then jump on a trampoline. And then you would have reading and maybe play video games or something else that he wants to do. And then you'll do the science, and then another activity that he wants to do. However, what you want to do as a parent, you want to predetermine those things that he's going to layer in, because you want to make sure that those things that you're layering in, the preferred activity that he wants to do, you want to make sure that you are also having a little bit of control over that as well. So for example, his preferred activity may be, I want to watch TV for an hour. Well, that's not something that is going to be productive. Right. You can watch TV, but you can watch TV only for about 15 minutes. You can play video games, but you're going to play a specific video game, or you're going to play that video game for a certain amount of time. But what you want to make sure that you do is you want to give him a visual schedule. And then he's old enough, he's in middle school, about to go to high school. He's old enough to let you know which of those activities he wants to do and in what order. Because today I may want to do math first and then reading and writing, but tomorrow I think I want to tackle the reading first, and then I'll do the writing and then the math. So as long as he has those things written down, he can then go and mark off or check off math, check, reading, check, and then he will feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day, and then you won't be so stressed. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? He already has it written down. It's right there for him, and he can simply go and mark it off or check it off or whatever he needs to do as he's doing it. And then he will know what he needs to do. He'll know, okay, it's a certain time. I still have 3 assignments to do. I need to get on that. And so he'll have a visual reminder of what he needs to do as well. And we can talk a little bit offline about how to make that more specific to him, where your family needs are concerned, where your job requirements are concerned. We can talk a little later about how we can actually make that work for you and for him. Okay? Thank you. You're welcome.
And I just wanted to add.
Go ahead, Ty.
No, go ahead. To add, I was going to suggest having a visual schedule, but also take a look at your work schedule and his more challenging courses, and make sure when you create the schedule, the challenging courses are during a time where you're kind of like off work or have little work to do, where you can be there to assist him, because he might have some subjects he may be able to do on his own. Right. So he may need you to be right there next to him to complete.
Can I say something too?
Yes, Mimi, go ahead.
Maybe, his teachers know him. Maybe just work it out where he does just 2 academic subjects a day. He alternates days, like an A day, B day, so he doesn't become so overwhelmed.
Great idea.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Melody. I would like to suggest too that you can set up a contract with him to do certain things for a certain time so he can earn certain things, especially if it's an activity that causes him to have a lot of anxiety. And if you have to do testing, I suggest doing testing on Thursday. So if he doesn't have a great test on Thursday, he can have redemption on Friday. Sometimes kids get so nervous about that big test on Friday, but if they know they can have redemption, then, it kind of relieves the stress of it all. So they can treat almost Thursday like a pre-test.
And Melody, can you go ahead and explain a little further what that redemption is? Just explain that concept.
Okay. For kids who have like big academic tests, like there's a unit test or a weekly test, and it occurs Friday, there's a lot of anxiety about, I need to master this, I need to master this, I need to master this all week, and especially if you're a kid that's struggling to grasp a concept. So let's say Thursday they get the test and they're supposed to make 6 out of 8, and they don't. Well,
hold on.
Thursday you get to discuss with them where they did well, and then the challenges that they had.
I'm sorry, Melanie, your computer froze. Your voice froze and your computer froze. You're unfrozen now. You're unfrozen now. So going back to, they get the test on Thursday.
Right. You get the test on Thursday, and it allows them to look at where they were strong and where they had challenges. So when you work with the child and work through that, when they take the test on Friday, they can come up with a strategy to be more successful. So it just gives that a child a chance to reflect and to think about where it is that they met the greatest challenge in that test. And I know it helps us as teachers to sit back and reflect. And they have opportunities with us, well, with being at home that they don't have at school, and that's to discuss where it is that they fell down or where it is they weren't as strong. And so when they go back Friday, they can come back with a fresh mind and a new mode of attack and do better.
Yeah, she's correct on that, because even with my son, he had a quiz that he had to take and he didn't do so well the first time. So the teacher reopened it and then he was allowed to take it over and he did better. So that is a very good tactic for the kids that are special needs.
Thank you, thank you. So before I jump to the next section, the educators out there, do you have any other suggestions as to what the parents can do at home for children who may be struggling around an assessment or some type of test?
Reach out to the teachers. I know some parents, I've been speaking to parents myself who said they haven't heard from any of the teachers. But the parents, they can reach out. All teachers have an email address. We have to check our emails every day. So if there's a teacher that you want to ask questions to and you don't have, or you don't know the platform, like I'm using Microsoft Teams, but some of my parents, they didn't know that. So if you reach out via email, the teacher is sure to receive the email, and any questions, concerns you may have, you can address it there. Because again, this is new for all of us, so we don't even have the answer. It's like trial and error for us.
Right.
So I've been calming my parents down, calming my parents down and letting them know it's okay. It's okay. You know, we're working through this together. I've had parents, I called, you know, because my students weren't working and I found out they're homeless. She said they didn't have internet service. So it's like, okay, I don't even want you to worry about the work at this moment because, you know, we have other issues that's going on, but the teachers, we don't know, but we're struggling as well. So just keep that in mind. We're here to help as much as we can, but this is new for all of us. And like I said, I've been teaching for 20 years, so I'm kind of old school and I'm not really tech savvy. So a lot of this is going on. I'm learning. Thank God my daughter is still here to assist me with a lot of this, but I'm learning. So a lot of teachers are in that situation as well. So but reach out because we're here to help.
Right.
Anybody had any? Go ahead, Melody.
I would say look at the IEP, if your child has an IEP or a 504 plan, and look at the supports that are supposed to be provided. And if you can't contact the teacher, hopefully you can, but look at some of the work samples that your child has gotten and look at some of the past notes that you've gotten from your teachers, especially if you're in a situation where you can't reach them. And that way you can kind of develop what the supports your child needs yourself, although it's going to be harder, but at least you have like, I guess, a plumb line to go from. You know, a small rope is better than no rope, and it just kind of gives you a guideline. And I'd say don't underestimate the power of teaching your kids to do housework.
Yes, they are. Mine are.
There's math and literacy in everything we do. You know, the schedules that, the educational schedules, the schedules for not just when things come on TV, of course, but
you're freezing.
There's a time of days. There's a time of day when it's best to do some of everything. Sorry, is this better?
Yes.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. There's a time of day when it's best to do everything, and so even as Mimi talked about picking different days to do different things, there are different times of days when the child might be better, like Dr. Briggs mentioned. And helping them to self-discover and advocate for themselves about those things are very important too, because you're helping the child discover themselves as well as tackle this new landscape we're all on together.
Right.
And I just kind of wanted to jump in there and go back to what Ty was saying and what Melanie just mentioned. You know, I heard you, Ty, when you were saying we're all in this together. And the parents have stressors as well as the teachers. And Melanie just reminded us that, yes, we have a lot of stressors. So Dr. Brinson, I would like for you, if you can, just to, as far as the adults in these children's lives are concerned, as far as the adults, whether we are teachers or whether we're parents, what can we do as an adult who's going through this, knowing we have all these responsibilities, knowing that we had stressors and responsibilities prior to the pandemic. Now the pandemic is building on top of that, and now we have children at home with all these high demands. What can we do as adults to kind of calm our own selves?
Right. That's a really good question. So the first thing I want people to understand, even I have to tell myself this several times a day, we are not in this alone, right? Everybody's worried about penalties and bills and foreclosures. The whole world is basically at a standstill right now. So the most you can do is to deal with the things that are within your control, right? We talk about things like mind, body, and soul, right? So now is the time that you can focus on things like beliefs, habits that you want to keep or get rid of, things that are within your control. When it comes to your body, you can focus on putting things in your body that will strengthen your immune system, right? These are things that are within your control, okay? When it comes to your soul, now is the time for you to do the things that are deep within. Work on those hobbies, start that business. If you come out the other side of this and you haven't learned something new or experienced something different, then I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Now is the time. People are literally dying now. We're living, right? So take advantage of the time. Do things that are within your control. And just understand that everybody's going through the same thing at varying levels, but we're all in this together.
And I know, Mimi, we talked earlier and you said that where your daughter is concerned, she's more reserved and she doesn't speak out as much, but you did share with us earlier about some of the things that you do to make sure that she's okay, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Can you share that with us now?
Yeah, we just carve out just a little piece of time in the day just to sit and chat, like what's going on, what are you feeling? Just to kind of, I have to pull things up out of her just to see, make sure her head is in a good place and she's just not keeping it all inside. And, I do know that the social aspect of not being in school is kind of hard for her because she's an only child. So there's nobody else in the house, no other children in the house. So, she kind of misses that a lot. I do know that the academic side of it, she's okay. I'm trying to get her to advocate more for herself because, the teachers are communicating. She's at a school where probably 95% of the kids have technology, if not higher, so now the teachers are communicating via Zoom. Some of them have Instagram, Teams, and just making sure she's not overwhelmed and just trying to keep up with all of that.
Yeah.
And when you try to, go ahead, Doctor.
To that, I want to make it clear that I am more concerned with a child's social and emotional adjustment right now than I am academics. Academics will come, right? But what we need our kids to do is learn how to adjust and survive right now, without falling apart, learning how to regulate your emotions. The academic stuff is going to come.
It'll come.
You know what I mean? But the survival, talk to your children frequently, right?
Right.
Let's not have the news on all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's not do that. Okay?
More stress.
Because they're getting stressed. They're watching you stress. They're listening to your stressful conversations, and now they're stressed. Right? So that's. I'm sorry, you were saying something else. I just wanted to jump in and say that.
No, that's perfect because a lot of times our kids, well, not a lot of times, most times our kids feed off of us. They feed off of our energy. So, human nature is to look to the person in charge. That's just human nature. If you are in, an elevator and your boss is in the elevator with you and you're in that elevator with 5 other people and all of a sudden the elevator shakes or rattles, human nature is for everybody to look at the boss. Because our brain is saying that person is the one that's in control. If we happen to be in a mall or something like that and we see somebody in uniform, it could be any kind of uniform, and if something happens in that mall, everybody looks to the person that's in uniform. Why? Because our brain automatically goes to, this is the person in charge, this is the person who I should listen to. But guess what? Our children are human too. So when it comes to human nature, they do the same thing. They look towards They look toward us as far as what is it that I need to do in this situation. In schools, the teachers take on that role, but at home right now, we parents take on the role of, I'm the person that is going to tell you what to do. I'm the person that pretty much says this is how we should handle this situation. And if I, as the adult, am stressed out or upset or, you know, constantly looking at the news and doomsday and oh my God, what's going to happen, then the kids feel like, okay, they know something that we don't know, and if they're that stressed, we should be that stressed as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, Dr. Brinson, I do want to go back just a little bit, because what I don't want people to take from this is that I'm saying, don't allow your kids to see your emotions.
Right.
Or don't share your, I'm not saying don't be real and don't share your emotions, but can you speak to kind of how we can balance that?
So yeah, I mean, you don't want to, what you think you're hiding your emotions from your kids, but you're really not. They know things, they see things, right? They hear things, right? So it's good to be realistic with your kids, but you don't want to frighten them by giving them a bunch of information you really don't know is factual.
Right.
Because what we're doing is we're talking to our kids about what's going on in the news and what's going on and what's going on. But what we really need to focus on is asking our kids what they feel like you need to do to keep them feeling so safe and healthy. Maybe it's something like, well, mommy, can you just spend 10 minutes with me, you know, doing a puzzle? Like, you're working and I'm trying to get schoolwork done, but we're not connecting.
Right.
You know, so and you'd be surprised how that will change, you know, a lot of the communication that goes on at home. And it'll make you feel better.
I just want to piggyback off what Dr. Brinson was speaking about, because often my daughter and I, we the older one, we'll play Uno in between, you know, and I haven't played Uno in years. And I was like, I know I was teaching or whatever, but I was like, this is really cool, because it helps us both to get our minds off of the stress of her not being able to go and socialize in school and me, you know, not being able to go to work, but it was a connection. And that I really I like that. So that was really good idea, Dr. Brinson, to do those other activities to kind of as a distraction.
Right, exactly.
Listen, I haven't played board games like between the board games and the Wii, because again, I said I have a 4th grader. So he's younger. My daughter, she's independent, will play a little, but she's more of sit in her room after she does her work. You know, she'll come down and talk for a while and then go back and do her own thing. My son at that part, and he's in the 4th grade.
Yeah, energy.
I have to find some things to do with him. I mean, and I would say I'm a parent first. So I understand like everything that's going on. But we cannot, I'm not going to say don't do your work, but my sole focus is not academics right now. Because like Dr. Brinson said, it's a lot going on. So my sole focus is making sure my kids are okay, making sure my family is okay. If the teacher overloads him with work and I feel like it's going to overwhelm him, listen, we can't get it done. I have to email her, hey, we had some things going on. We'll make sure we get it done by tomorrow. But you have to take care of your child and your family. That's right. Before we worry about like all of these academics.
And another thing I'm doing is I'm immersing myself in my daughter's world. She's in 5th grade. So I'm learning TikTok, I'm learning WhatsApp, I'm learning all these things that I'm questioning her about. Who you talking to, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm learning how these things work, you know? So why not? We have nothing else to do. Let me learn more about the child I'm raising, because I'm not raising the same child that my mom raised. This is our
another generation.
So no time like the present to learn more about the child that you're raising.
And it helps you too, because they're fun when you do it.
Exactly.
Mimi, you wanted to say?
But yeah, it's not just, even the kids I teach, we did a Zoom. So last week we did our first Zoom. I did one with my co-teacher. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, they're getting ready to answer all these questions. They didn't care anything about the academics. They were just so happy to be on Zoom, to see one another, to see us the whole hour, just talking and having fun and laughing. And they was like, can we do this again? Can we do this again? It was just, they missed that part.
They do, right.
Yeah.
I know
Even
this.
though-
Teachers miss interacting with your students.
Right. You know, and some of them are home alone all day
Yeah.
by themselves. And I hadn't even thought about that. You know, I had one parent the other day. She works in the medical field and her daughter's home alone for 12 hours at a time.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Right. There's a
Melanie, you wanted to say?
Yes, there's a catharsis in play that we forget about, that how we bond to each other when we play and how we problem solve in our minds when we're not actively problem solving. We forget that. And I think another thing this has brought out is how much we need community
Yeah.
now that we don't have it. I work with kids who vary in their verbal ability. So one of the things I think about or think that's healthy to do is journal. Some of our kids can't write or don't verbalize, so we do picture journals. And I think that's cathartic with the parents. Sometimes you have big emotions that you can't explain, but maybe you can show it in a picture or maybe in a short story. You know, we got our cell phones, we take pictures of everything talking about, and we can use those things to talk about how we feel. Right. And we can take these big worldly issues and break them down into little components that our kids can understand. And I think it bonds the parent with the child, again, because we're around each other. We see our kids, but sometimes we don't know our kids. Sometimes we activity our kids, you know, with jazz, tap, gymnastics, travel ball. And we see our kids, but we don't know our kids. And so this is giving us a time as parents to really know our kids.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I want to speak to, I hear the conversation, but I'm also hearing some parents in the back of my brain, some parents that I interact with and that from past and currently. All of this that we're saying is really good, and it does sound good and it makes a lot of sense. But what about those kids who you try to interact with them and they don't want any part of it? Leave me alone. I don't want to play a game. I don't want to play solitaire. I don't want to play Uno. Why are you always talking to me? They just rather stay on their computer in their room or stay on their phone and away from everybody else in the household. And no matter how much you try to pull them into family time, they just don't want to have anything to do with that. So can any of you speak to that?
Well, I would say it really depends on, I mean, there are a lot of factors that play into that. Are we talking about a kid that has emotional issues? Are we talking about a kid that is depressed because they're now socially isolated? You know, there are a lot of factors that play into that. But I would definitely encourage a parent to never stop attempting communication. I mean, even if if they're going to answer a text message, keep the line of communication open that way. You know, do what you can. And again, there are psychologists like myself that are offering telehealth services. So reach out to a professional and get some help. Again, you're not in this alone. You know, the child that you're seeing now is a different child than the one that you spend a couple of hours with and then send them to school for 8 hours a day. So yeah, that's my, you know, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, and I think just being there. Like you have some kids that may resist, but don't stop attempting, like she said. And even if you just go and sit next to them, don't say a word.
Right.
I mean, just sit there. Being there with them lets them know. It gives them a little comfort. Okay, my mom or my parent is trying. And even if they don't want to talk, even if they don't want to let you into whatever they're doing at that moment, just sit there with them. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree, because sometimes I'll just call her out of the room and she thinks I want something. I just give her a big old bear hug and say, that's all I want.
They're resistant sometimes, but
They are.
But you know what? Remember, our parents used to do that. They would call us out of our room just to get the remote or the drink.
Yes.
You know, that was their way of kind of checking on us, you know? So that's basic, you know? Get on their nerves. If you're getting on your child's nerves, that's good.
that's good. Yeah.
My grandfather used to call me to come and pull off his socks.
Exactly.
Really? Like, do I really want to come and pull off your socks? But that's something that my brother and I, my grandfather has passed on and gone to heaven, but that's something that my brother and I still talk about and laugh about to this day. Remember when Granddaddy used to make us pull his socks off and we used to run You know, we used to run so that he can find that one and not find us. So that we didn't have
Right. Exactly.
And it's just about creating memories. I think if nothing else, this will give us a time to just create memories with our family. So one of the things that I thought about this morning and last night, as I knew we were going to prepare for this video chat today, is I thought about this. What thoughts do I want to have about March, April, May 2020 in 2030? What is it that I want to look back and say, oh yeah, during the pandemic, we, and fill in the blank. Do I want to have thoughts of during the pandemic, our family fell apart because we all, you know, got so stressed that we said things that we shouldn't have said? Or during the pandemic, such and such happened, and it's a negative thought or negative emotion attached to it. Instead, I thought about how can we turn that around, and 10, 20 years from now, we can say, oh yeah, during the 2020 pandemic, such and such happened, but that's the time that I learned how to play the piano. That's the time that I learned I started my business. That's the time that my child learned how to ride their bike. Do you remember that was 2020? You remember you learned how to ride your bike because you were home all day and those kind of things. That's the time that I lost weight because I had time to turn on the video in my house and I did aerobics or whatever in my house during the pandemic. So how can we just turn this into a positive situation? How can we take this negative or these lemons and turn them into lemonade is one of the thoughts that I had this morning. But and if anybody else wants to speak to that.
I wanted to say that that's realistic what you're saying, because I find myself, because the gyms are closed, and I used to come home from work and then fix their food and go to the gym, but now after I get off work at home, but I'll like get with my son and go bike riding with him, and then that's me getting my exercise and he getting, you know, and we're spending that quality time together. And I found now he looks forward to that. Like every evening he's like, you know, we're going bike riding, we're going back. And I'm like, even though sometimes I may be tired, but I just push myself because I know, I'm like, okay, we're connecting. So this is bringing us together too as a family. And I look forward to it too. And that's our connection. And my daughter, I let her do my hair, like grease it because the salons are closed. So that was like our little bonding time too, you know, and I would do hers and she did mine. And I haven't done her hair in a while because she does her own, but just that time. So it is like reconnecting us, rebuilding us. So in a way, I'm thankful. And we're taking this, like you said, this lemon and making lemonade from this. So yeah.
Good.
Dr. Brinson,
Go ahead.
Dr. Brinson mentioned something earlier about, you know, healthy cooking and things like that. It's a perfect time to get in the kitchen. So much of our tradition, African American, you know, is tied around kitchen and how you keep your kitchen, how you cook, about doing hair. So we're actually being able to hand down legacy and things that maybe we just kind of took for granted because we are so busy providing. But this is part of our legacy now. And how we handle this portion of our legacy really helps determine how our kids can turn out and when they have their own, you know, I guess generation defining moments as well.
Right.
So I am appreciative of it. And it's ironic. It's just like Ms. Classy said, I see more people in my neighborhoods with their kids now than I have ever seen.
Right.
I know we're socially isolating, but I see more people. Most times I see garage doors. I don't see kids. I don't see cars. I see garage doors because everybody's inside. But now, you know, so I think especially the African American community, it's important for us to take this as time to take care of our legacy and braid that hair and cook those grits. Clean those chitlins. Yeah, I pass on the chitlins too, but you know what I'm saying. Hand down that heritage now.
You can't even find a bike in Walmart right now. Like all of
you really can't.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's good. Yeah, it's really bringing us together.
Did anybody have anything else to add as far as the different activities that you do or can do with your children? So we know we had playing the puzzles. Oh, I remember, speaking of puzzles, I honestly don't know how old I was, but I think I was in that middle school age. And one day my mom just brought home a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
like out of the blue, like completely out of the blue. Brought home a jigsaw puzzle, and we spent weekends with my mom because she worked 2 jobs during the week and she was off on the weekends. So we spent weekends with her, and we were with our grandparents during the week while she was working. And one weekend we came over, she picked us up, we came over, and we had a jigsaw puzzle on the coffee table, and we were like, what do you do? Like, what is that? And so she's sitting there, and she's like focused. She's like putting the pieces together, and we're like, okay, well, we want to do that, you know? And we start pulling. We're like, no, put this piece and put that piece. And I can still remember that now. That way back when we used to sit down, and it took us hours, like hours, and then it was just like putting pieces together, and we were using our higher order thinking skills, because you had to figure out if that's a corner piece, look at the color, look at the box, so on and so forth. And then we actually had conversation while we were sitting there putting the jigsaw together. We actually had conversation. And then once we got that jigsaw together, it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this big, huge jigsaw that we put all the pieces together? And we just let it sit on the coffee table. And every time we would walk by it, it was like a sense of accomplishment. Like, that's what we did. Like, we did that together. And then we were going to find a second jigsaw. We didn't know, but we were going to find a second jigsaw. And in the toy store next to the jigsaw, they had jigsaw glue. We didn't even know what jigsaw glue was. And we were like, oh my God. And the store, person that works in the store told us that it's to put over the jigsaw so it stays together and you can preserve it. So we were like, we bought jigsaw glue, we bought another jigsaw puzzle. It was like, we had jigsaw stuff all around the house, and our plan was to go ahead and frame them. But life happened. I don't know what happened after that. But I'm just thinking now that that's something that my mom, my brother, and I did when I was like late elementary, middle school, something like that. And who'd have thought, you know, middle school kids wanted the jigsaw puzzles, but we really did have a lot of fun, and we bonded as a family over that.
Yeah, right.
So any other activities that you all can recommend to parents?
I have a few. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, I'm going to add, I come from a big family. So it's not just my husband and my 2 kids, my family, we're always together. We get together like every weekend. And so for us, that affected us as well. And we have a group chat, but it's not the same when you can't see each other. So I just want to tell families and people out there, be open to this virtual gathering thing as well, because last night we had our first Zoom meeting and it was like 25 of us on, and it was chaos first, but it was just so wonderful to see everybody's faces, and we joked around. We might have a virtual fish fry next weekend. I don't know. It's like be open to it. It's not just school.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dr. Brinson, you were going to add a suggestion?
Yeah, a couple of things that I've been finding useful, I've been recommending to parents. First is making slime. I don't know if you all are familiar with making slime. I know it's messy.
It's messy.
It's awful, but it is extremely therapeutic.
It is.
Literally will bring down anxiety. It's tactile. It's really, really good. So that is one activity that the kids love. Mommies, we don't like it so much because it makes a mess. Yes. But I recommend that you have a spot outside, or just get a big sheet that you're not gonna really care about getting slime on, and give them a space. They need a space to make a mess. You know, that's something that's very helpful. Also, teaching.
But wait. How do we make slime?
Oh, okay.
YouTube. They have rules kits at Target and Walmart. They got kits.
Yeah, they have kits. They have kits that you can buy. Everything's already together. Can you tell them really quickly how to make slime? That's on video. Really quickly, can you tell them? No. Okay, bye. All right. The other thing that is really good is teaching our daughters how to braid hair. That's like a rite of passage for us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So use that time to teach your daughters how to braid hair, teach your sons how to tie a tie, those practical skills that we always talking about. Oh, these kids need to know X, Y, and Z before they graduate. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Your kids how to manage a checkbook, how to write a check, how to write a resume, you know, all those practical things that they need to know how to do.
Another thing that I brought this ball, right? And you know, for kids who have behavior issues, who have problems sitting, and we want them to, and parents sometimes think that we have our kids sitting upright and writing like this. You know, let them have a dynamic sitting with the balls. It's something easy. It's not a $2,000 chair or whatever. But there's so many ways that we, you know, as parents at home, we can allow our children to have choices. So I like the bouncy ball for that. Also the indoor trampoline. Let them bounce and things like that.
Yes.
Just like what Dr. Briggs was saying, they need that time to embed and just to kind of break away. If you have a child that gets physical therapy or OT, the slime is important. Something called ooglet, which is even grosser than slime, if you can believe that. It's solid, and then it becomes liquid. It's called ooglet. I think it's I
Wait a
forget
minute,
what it is, but you have to Google it as well.
Can you say the name of it again, Melody? We didn't get it.
Opportunities for the I think it's ooglik. I think it's OOGLICK. Ooglik. And kids like hugs. Some kids like real tight hugs because they like that compression and things when they're doing push-ups. Even if the girl push-ups or planks, it gives them that joint compression that they like. Hopscotch gives them that joint compression. Jumping rope. If anybody, you guys can remember how to do double dutch. Just saying things like that. Those old school games give them that compression and things that you know, they miss because we have a very sedentary sort of way of life now.
Right.
But we can bring that old school back to give them that physical feedback that helps with their vestibular system and their balance.
Awesome.
Also want to throw in there gardening. You can
Yes.
get some really cheap plants right now at Home Depot and do some gardening and yoga poses. I do a lot of mindfulness work with my kids, with my clients, and they include very simple yoga poses, stretching activities that again helps bring down anxiety and gives them the ability to feel uplifted. So those are some other things that I'd recommend.
Anybody else? I wanted to recommend this. I love this idea so much. It's a family book club. Again, a family book club. So what you do as a family is that you choose a book. Now you may have children at various levels, but it doesn't matter. If you pick something that everybody can pretty much understand, because it's a family book club. And what you do is now with the social distancing and with us quarantining, it's very difficult to get out to purchase books. You don't want to do that, or you can't go to the library because the libraries are closed. But maybe there's something you can find, a story online that you can probably print out, or that the kids can actually read from their phones or from their tablets, or if you are like me, old school, to have it actually printed out. Or you may have a classic book that you already have on your bookshelf, and so you'll have your own copy and then have the kids to use it printed out, or either use it electronically. And what you do is, as a family, just like an old-fashioned traditional book club, but as a family you would say, okay, we're going to read this section and have this section read this week or in the next 3 days or something like that. And then you all come together once or twice a week to discuss the book, but not to discuss the book in an educational type of way. We're not saying discuss the book like main idea and details and, you know, subject verb agreement. That's not what we're doing. But we want to discuss the book as far as what happened in the book. Did you like that part? What was your favorite part? What didn't you like? What would you have done if you were the character in the book? What do you think I would have done as mommy if I were the mommy in that story? What do you think I would have done? How do you think that the book is going to end? Or how would you end the book differently? You know, you just want to have conversation around that. And then you want to do it over pizza. Maybe you all can, we talked about cooking as a family earlier. Maybe you all can like make a homemade pizza as a family, or, you know, make a family, I don't know, meatloaf or something like that. And then you would have that meal around the dinner table. Yeah, I know, around the dinner table, it's like, what language am I speaking in the new millennium? But yes, around the dinner table, we can have that meal as well as discuss the book, and just have, you know, make it fun, you know, an old-fashioned family book club, so that we can say, oh yeah, during the pandemic of 2020, my family read through the classics. we read through Romeo and Juliet. Each one of the family members took a part, you know, and you were this person and you were that person. Oh my goodness, that was so much fun. Or, you know, we read through some of the classics. Cinderella, for example. Cinderella has been written in I don't know how many different, from the point of view of so many different cultures. You have, you know, the Chinese Cinderella, you have the African Cinderella. There's so many different Cinderella stories, and that you can do that as a family as well. So a family book club is just another idea that, you know, you can incorporate the literacy as well as family fun, as well as bringing down your stressors, bringing down their stresses. So in other words, you want to do activities and you want to involve your family in activities that you're not doing it just for the sole purpose of academics. Go in there and do your work. Go in there and do your homework. Get on that computer. Like, they get tired of hearing that. They've heard that. What else can we do to make sure that we are including ourselves in our children's lives, and that they are including themselves in our lives as well, you know, and something that we can have fun and look back on 5, 10, 15 years from now and say, you know, although it was a terrible situation that our world was going through, not just our country, but we are the better for it.
Mm.
Can I piggyback off of that? When you said book club, I thought about just a movie night with all electronics put away.
Yeah.
And that reminded me that I bought an old-fashioned popcorn popper. Never opened yet. And so we need to learn how to make popcorn the old way instead of throwing the bag in the microwave. So and I also found, and I still have them in the pantry, some Jiffy popcorn. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That you put on the stove and you shake it.
So that just kind of reminded me. And we could do the same thing with the movie that you do with the book. Like, do you think I didn't like the way it ended? This person and that person. So yeah, that's a good idea. I like that.
And I think Melanie mentioned earlier, I forget, somebody mentioned it earlier, with the cooking and incorporating the math in that. A lot of our kids don't know the difference between a teaspoon and a tablespoon.
Right.
A lot of them don't know what a dozen is or what half a dozen is. A lot of them don't know what an ounce is and how do you measure a gallon or quart or an ounce or something like that. Even measurement, linear measurement. A lot of the children don't know that. So this is a good time for us to incorporate math skills just with everyday things that we can do at home. Some parents, I know, we were talking about gardening earlier. Some parents are actually, I saw on Facebook or online or somewhere, where they're actually creating they're gardening, but they need to protect the garden from like cats or whatever. So they're like getting chicken wire and the plywood and they're nailing it. And so they're creating this cover, if you will, to put over the garden. And that takes math, you know, measuring the plywood, cutting and all of that kind of thing. So if we can do some of those type of things with our kids, you know, it's fun. And we're incorporating academics as well.
Right.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, so we are going to end this session, but before we end this session, I want each of us to think about it for a few seconds. And I want us to just express, or just to say at least one thing that we've gathered from today's conversation that we think we can incorporate into our own personal lives, as well as share with either our family members or our students family. So if you can just think about one thing that came out of today's conversation that we can share with our family members and with people that we know, so that we can all be the better for it. So you all just jump in. I'm not going to call any names. Whoever wants to go first can go ahead.
How about you go first?
Okay, so one of the things that I gathered from this conversation is the reminder that we are all in this together. With the stressors of the mortgage has to be paid and this has to be done, and you know, all the different things, you know, we try to say life goes on, but actually life really kind of is at a standstill, if you will, you know what I mean? And it's easy to get caught up in that. So what I took away is, look, slow down, breathe, because we're all in this together. The entire world is facing issues, and just breathe and you're going to be all right. So that's one of the things that I took away from this conversation.
I'll say Go ahead.
One of the things I took away was the social aspect of making sure our children are okay, you know, with the emotional side of this, and not to so much work, because the academics will fall into place.
Right.
And we all know that as educators, there's going to be something different next year, based on this. You know, we're going to all be held, you know, they're going to make exceptions and things based on the academic part of it, but the social part, we may not be able to reel some of them back if we don't take care of that now. The academics will take care of itself. And, you know, because every school system is going to have to recognize that, hey, this was going on. But mentally and emotionally, we need to make sure we take care of these kids.
Agreed.
I just wanted to say I got out of it, most importantly, that about creating a visual schedule, which was a great idea, and I'm prioritizing both the academic and adding, you know, social skills with my whole family. So, and even for me, prioritizing work and, you know, disciplining myself to get the kids organized and prioritized as well. So I took that away from this, which is very helpful. So, and I want to say thank you all to the educators. You all are amazing, and we appreciate you as parents.
Thank you. What I got out of it, I like the idea of some other activities to do with my kids, like the cooking, but in the book club, but incorporating academics into it, like with the cooking and the book club. Well, I've been painting, but I haven't had my kids to come on and help me, but that can be academic as well, because when you have to measure the walls and calculate the area, trying to figure out how much paint you need. So just bringing my kids into some of the things that I've been doing independently, and just working together with them for some of the social things we're doing around the house to incorporate the academics with it.
Awesome.
One thing I learned, I'm sorry.
No, go.
One thing I learned, and I know we spoke about it, we didn't speak a whole lot about it, but as women, we're very strong. And sometimes we're there for everybody else and we forget to be there for ourselves. And you can't pour from an empty glass. So what's definitely really, really important is that we have to make sure we take care of ourselves. And I don't mean being selfish and just not taking care of anybody else, but we have to make sure that we spend some time and get our mental health together. So then we're really, really a strong part, not only for our own children, but for the students, for our coworkers. Because again, you can't pour from an empty glass, you know?
Right.
What I got from it was to encourage the parents to be flexible in their scheduling with their kids.
Right.
Because I know so many parents would try to stress out and do everything all day or to fidelity from 7 to 3. And it's just not realistic.
Right.
But letting them know that it's okay, because sometimes even as a professional, or even just as a woman, you need permission. You need someone to say, you don't have to master this.
Yeah.
We're all going through a different, we're in a different landscape now. What we just need you to do is to, you know, engage. Let's be in contact with each other so we can provide you the type of support so we can get through this together.
Agree. And Dr. Brinson, you're the last one.
Oh, okay. I'm taking notes, but what stuck out the most for me is that I am looking at the fact that we need a larger platform of support for women, women who are parents and teachers, either or both, to kind of keep this dialogue going.
Yeah.
We know intrinsically that we're all in this together, but it's not until we come together on platforms like this that we really feel that, and we can really come up with ways to support each other. So as a mental health professional, this tells me that this needs to be a larger platform, something that's a lot more intentional, you know, something that it won't be done just once, but we need to keep this dialogue going.
And can I add, I'm sorry.
I agree.
Maybe getting a guy next time. And I'm just saying that because I know a lot of single dads. And women can relate to us, but sometimes maybe the men out there would need to see a face or hear from a voice of someone that they can relate to, or how a dad is handling it, because we know guys don't handle things the same way that we do as
Right.
so
Right.
I can imagine what some of these dads are going through as well.
Mhm.
Like these guys probably used to taking their daughters out to get their hair done. Now they don't have that option. We can do our
Right.
own daughter's hair, but you know, we got these dads now that are I'm not going to say stuck home, but are staying home, staying safe with their children, but then they have to make sure that they're doing what they have to do as a dad for their daughters or for their children. So maybe the next time, maybe we can add maybe a dad or something.
That'd be
Good
good.
idea. That'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Does anybody have any last words before we log
I
off?
really enjoyed this. This was
Me
Yeah.
too.
Me
This was
too.
really good.
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to many more conversations. And again, I want everyone out there to know that there are professionals out there that can help you. You're not in this alone. You know, contact a professional. We're going to put our information at the end of this somehow, but seek help. It's out there.
Right.
And a lot of times it's free.
Mhm. Mhm. So thank you all so much for joining us for our parent and teacher talk about stressors and challenges that we're facing during this COVID-19 pandemic. And we really hope that you enjoyed the conversation here, and let us know what you think. Go ahead and drop your comments in the comment section and let us know if you need to reach out to us. Our contact information for myself as well as Dr. Brinson will be somewhere in the comments or in the show notes, and we will reach out to you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Safe.
Stay safe.
So.